Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
President Biden announces additional harsh sanctions against Russia and new U.S. troop deployments as Russia invades Ukraine. People in our area are watching concerned. The Russian military targeting a number of strategic locations. Ukraine is now under martial law. Many citizens are fleeing, leaving everything behind, while some are vowing to fight on. Here at home, the Biden administration is reacting with even more sanctions and coordinating with other world leaders about how to respond to Russia's aggression. Caroline Shively has more details from Washington.
President Biden announced a new round of sanctions on Russia this afternoon. As Mr. Biden spoke in Washington, explosions could be heard across Ukraine. Chaos overseas. Russia launching a large-scale military attack on Ukraine. Airstrikes hitting different areas of the country as tanks and troops take over city streets. Ukraine losing control of the Chernobyl nuclear plant. Russian President Vladimir Putin warning other countries that any attempt to interfere would lead to consequences they have never seen.
This is a grave situation that's changing the balance of power in Europe.
Ukraine's president declared martial law, vowing his country will defend itself against this attack. Cameras captured a massive traffic jam in Kyiv, with many drivers rushing to get out. Some on the ground plan on staying no matter what.
This is our land, and we will fight to the last.
President Biden held a virtual meeting with the G7 leaders Thursday to discuss their response to Russia's actions.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war.
The president has vowed no U.S. troops will be sent to Ukraine. He announced another round of sanctions targeting Putin and his associates.
We will limit Russia's ability to do business in dollars, euros, pounds, and yen to be part of the global economy.
The Pentagon has ordered 7,000 more troops into Germany, leaving the U.S. in the next few days. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
The situation in Eastern Europe is having an impact here at home. The stock market is volatile and oil is soaring. Big Fox's Matt Kleindinst spoke to a travel expert about what to expect at the pump in the coming days and weeks.
Fighting is reaching its second day in Ukraine. However, the effects of the invasion can already be felt. Global markets were in free fall, and the price of oil topped $100 a barrel, the highest it's been since 2014.
The situation in Russia and Ukraine is driving up oil prices because of the threat of holding back that oil from the global market.
Elizabeth Carey with AAA says increased oil prices can lead to higher gas prices. Gas prices are currently hovering around $3.70 a gallon in the southern tier. However, prices could potentially increase.
During the recession in July of 2008, we were paying $4.25 a gallon, and no one wants to see that return. But we're getting pretty close with prices at, $3.75, $3.76 in the New York State, Rochester, and Elmira areas.
Kerry says the U.S. might need to take some action to try to alleviate pain at the pump, such as tapping into reserves and cutting taxes.
I know there's talk from Senator Schumer and other elected officials saying they want to eliminate gas taxes to bring gas prices down at the pump.
Kerry says residents can work around price hikes by shopping around to find the cheapest gas.
Even a few cents a gallon can go a long way in saving money.
Matt Kleindin's Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
The district attorney in Chester County, Pennsylvania, announces the arrest in the stabbing death of a college student. The suspect in the case is 39-year-old Nidira Smith. She's accused of stabbing 3 students at Lincoln University. Smith is the sister of another student who was involved in the fight during which the stabbings happened. One of the victims, 21-year-old Jawine Evans, died from his injuries.
When police arrived, they found Jawine Evans in a grassy area outside of the dormitory with a knife wound to the neck and 2 other victims with stab wounds. EMS and paramedics from Oxford Fire Company responded to the scene, where they pronounced Evans dead. The other 2 victims were transported to Christiana Hospital, where they were treated and released.
Smith is charged with murder, aggravated assault, and other crimes. Lincoln University is a historically black school located about 50 miles west of Philadelphia. The parents of accused Oxford High School shooter Ethan Crumbley were back in court in Michigan today, where prosecutors continue to present evidence against the couple. Authorities say the pair should stand trial in connection to the deadly school shooting, accusing both of failing to act when their son showed mental distress and created disturbing drawings before he opened fire on classmates at his high school, killing 4 students. As the Omicron surge continues declining, vaccination rates are ticking down, especially among young people. Jonathan Seri has more from Atlanta.
There have been days where I haven't given any vaccines.
It's a growing trend across the country as COVID cases decline nationwide. Vaccine hesitancy has turned into vaccine fatigue. The CDC says about 73% of Americans ages 12 and up are now fully vaccinated, but only 40% have gotten booster shots.
One of the biggest challenges that public health has right now is not to keep it in everybody's face, but to keep it enough on the forefront that people are not dying and that hospital rates continue to go down.
And the numbers are even lower among children ages 5 to 11. Just over 28% have gotten their shots, with some doctors and nurses reporting parents just don't think it's a priority now that the Omicron surge is winding down.
I was really hoping that the surge of COVID that we had a few weeks ago would increase vaccination numbers, but it hasn't.
Meanwhile, the CDC is updating its guidance on when to get those shots, suggesting some people could benefit from a longer wait between the first and second doses of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, and an interval of 8 weeks instead of 3 to 4 as previously recommended may reduce the risk of a rare heart inflammation among young men and also possibly provide more long-lasting protection.
Now we can say if you had the 2 shots plus the booster, or you had COVID plus 1 or 2 shots, this is going to cover you for a really long time.
The CDC says the 3 or 4 week interval is still recommended for the elderly and people with weakened immune systems. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
An update on the economy. There were 232,000 people filing for unemployment benefits for the first time last week. Now that's below the 235,000 Dow Jones estimate and down 17,000 from the previous week. Continuing claims came in at 1.48 million, a drop of 112,000 from the previous week, and was the lowest total since 1970. Still ahead tonight, nearly 2 years after Breonna Taylor was shot and killed in her apartment as Louisville officers were serving a no-knock warrant. The only officer to face criminal charges is now on trial.
Just debris started going past my head, my face. I don't even remember how many shots I heard because it was just so chaotic.
We have details from the first day in court.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
All right, thanks again for checking in as we take a look at your local forecast. We have some wintry precip that'll be developing through the night tonight and continuing through the day tomorrow. Total snowfall amounts could be 4 to 7 inches in a few spots. We're also going to be looking at some freezing rain and even sleet potential. Temperatures, though, on Friday will be topping out at 37, so even mixing in some rainfall at times. And then Saturday and Sunday looking a little bit quieter. Could see some light rain or snow late in the day Sunday. And we'll have more on that, of course, coming up. But a winter weather advisory until 4 p.m. Friday, talking about some heavy mixed precipitation. Again, snowfall of 4 to 7 inches, a little bit of icing and sleet mixing in with that. And we really do have to kind of keep in mind that if sleet mixes in with the snowfall, that will dramatically cut down the snowfall amounts. And the best chance of freezing rain and sleet will be right along the New York and Pennsylvania line here, and then turning much quieter into Saturday and a warmer start to March, which is already on Tuesday. So there's our winter weather advisory. Does encompass Corning and Elmira. Just to the south and west, though, that's an ice storm warning west of State College. So again, freezing rain will certainly be mixing in. And then to the east, we have winter storm warnings where snowfall amounts will be exceeding 8 inches or more. Again, if we do have more sleet and freezing rain, mixing in with this system tonight and tomorrow, that will dramatically cut down our snowfall amounts, but anywhere from 4 to 7 inches of that snowfall. And again, a light glaze of ice with some heavier icing to the south. And again, watching this particular storm system move through overnight tonight. We've got blue and pink showing up, a little bit of green to the south, and then eventually winding down through the day on Friday. So the first half of the day Friday, not great. Hazardous travel in a few locations, and then staying a bit on the cool side on Saturday with some partly sunny skies. So sleet and snow expected tonight, maybe even mixing with some freezing rain. 23 degrees when you head out the door tomorrow. Again, keep in mind that roadways and traveling will be a little bit on the slow side. Those feels like temps in the morning will be into the teens and 20s. And then taking a look at our day plan.
Officials in a number of major cities are reporting an uptick in carjackings. This comes as an increase in violent crime continues to put a strain on police departments in some major cities. David Lee Miller has the story.
An alarming rise in carjackings is gripping cities across the country. The Philadelphia Police Department releasing footage of this incident as a suspect jumped into a running vehicle double parked along a street. Moments later, the suspect appears to bail out of the car, causing the vehicle to crash into another car. Mayor Jim Kenney says the uptick of carjackings is worrisome.
People should be concerned about their safety, be concerned about in a car what's around me. It's what you do in the city.
Meanwhile, in New York City, 11-year-old Daniel Richardson Perez is speaking out. Perez recounts the moment an unknown man drove off with him inside the car as his dad went supermarket shopping. The suspect allegedly drove for 20 minutes before letting him out of the vehicle.
I was just staying quiet, kind of panicking a little bit, and then once he saw that I had a phone, and I don't know, something that I did made him want to drop me off.
Carjackings like these are becoming more and more common. In Minneapolis, carjackings are up 63%. In New York, the number has spiked by 56%. Chicago has seen an uptick of carjackings by 30%. And Washington, D.C., up 18%. Investigators say, in many cases, gangs are coordinating these carjacking efforts.
I would say there are several carjacking rings operating in the city at the present time. I'm going to say they're loosely organized.
Philadelphia police have announced the arrest of Jonathan Akubu. He is accused of being the leader of a carjacking ring. He is allegedly linked to more than 4 dozen carjacking incidents. In New York, David Lee Miller.
The United States Postal Service is getting ready to receive new vehicles as soon as next year, announcing that it's cleared its last regulatory hurdle to put in orders for a new generation of mail vehicles. 10% of the new vehicles will be electric powered. Thousands of vehicles currently being used went into service between 1987 and 1994. Nearly 2 years after Breonna Taylor was shot and killed in her apartment as Louisville police were serving a no-knock warrant, the only officer to face criminal charges is now on trial. Anna Eliopoulos has details from the first day in court.
The trial now underway for the only Kentucky officer facing criminal charges in the deadly raid that killed Breonna Taylor. Former officer Brett Hankison on trial for shooting into Taylor's neighbor's apartment when he allegedly fired 10 shots near a side door while carrying out a no-knock warrant on Taylor's apartment in 2020. None hit her, but one of those bullets entered another unit, endangering her neighbors and their young son. In opening arguments, the prosecution saying it's not a case about who is responsible for Taylor's death or the validity of the search warrant, but about the actions of one officer and the man nearly hit by a stray bullet.
He shot into the apartment building. His bullets went through apartment 4 into apartment 3 and nearly hit Cody Etherton.
On the stand, Etherton recalls jumping out of bed when he heard gunfire, saying the officers were reckless.
Just debris started going past my head, my face. I don't even remember how many shots I heard because it was just so chaotic.
The defense agreeing it was a chaotic situation, but arguing Hankison was justified in his action, firing back after Taylor's boyfriend shot at the cops.
He was attempting to defend and save the lives of his brother officers.
Charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment, Hankison is expected to take the stand during the 2-week trial. He's facing up to 5 years in prison if convicted.
American truckers following in the footsteps, or tire tracks, of Canadian truckers. The group, now calling themselves the People's Convoy, gathered in Southern California and began their trip to the Washington, D.C. area. They're protesting coronavirus restrictions. The convoy plans to make a few stops as it travels east. The truckers plan to make the trip in 11 days and to go near Washington, D.C., but not go into the city. The National Education Association says hundreds of thousands of teachers left the workforce during the pandemic, with many saying they're exhausted as schools continue to deal with COVID-related challenges. Austin Westfall has more.
Being a teacher has never been easy, but many teachers will tell you that the pandemic has made their job more stressful. And they say that taking care of their children is much more difficult if they don't first take care of themselves.
I had to recently go seek counseling because I'm like, I'm not okay.
Tanya Tolson teaches 12th grade English at Mountain Island Charter School in Mount Holly, North Carolina. She says in her 2 decades of teaching, the job has been rewarding but demanding.
We're always the ones giving, and we give. So nobody ever looks at how we're actually giving from an empty cup.
Lesson planning and grading papers require long hours, and keeping remote students on track during the pandemic was especially tough.
A lot of teachers leaving the profession because it's really mentally not great for us.
According to the National Education Association, there are nearly 390,000 fewer educators in America's public schools than there were before the pandemic. On top of that, 55% of educators say they're ready to leave the profession earlier than planned. Darnita Samuels is a therapist who regularly works with teachers. She says some feel overwhelmed, but don't quite know why.
So what they're saying is, I'm stressed out. My anxiety is going up, things like that. And so when we start asking questions, there is burnout, but then there's also some slight depression as well.
Samuels works with an organization called the Teacher's Resource, which connects teachers with self-care help.
Healthy person, healthy teacher equals healthy students.
We are so excited. Help me again welcome Dr. Jaleesa as she talks to us about preventing burnout.
The organization's founder, Sonia Battle, does Facebook Live and group Zoom sessions with licensed therapists like Samuels.
Sometimes I open it up to ask, like, okay, is anyone on here who would like to share exactly what they're dealing with, so we can help them get coping skills.
Since 2020, Battle has connected with roughly 1,000 teachers, including Tolson.
You can say you're enough all day, but when you don't feel like you're enough, then you're not enough.
Group therapy is helpful, but Samuel says that one-on-one therapy is most helpful for teachers that are trying to get help for their specific situations. In order to find resources near you, you can go to theteachersresource.org and click on Contact Us.
The TSA reporting an increase in the number of guns spotted at Washington, D.C. airports. TSA spokesperson Lisa Farberstein says the TSA detected nearly 6,000 guns and firearms at airport checkpoints across the country last year. She reminded travelers, even if you have a permit, there are restrictions on how that gun can come on board.
Unfortunately, TSA has seen an incredible spike in the number of people who are bringing their firearms, guns, to checkpoints, not only here in the Washington, D.C. area, but also nationwide. Last year, TSA officers across the country detected 5,972 guns at checkpoints nationwide.
A new study says eating less meat might lower your risk for cancer. Researchers at the University of Oxford in England looked at the diets and cancer diagnoses from more than 472,000 people ages 40 to 70. Their results showed vegans and vegetarians had a 14% lower risk for cancer compared to those who consumed meat more than 5 times a week. The risk is 10% lower for those who eat meat and fish compared with those who consumed high amounts of meat. We want to leave you with a smile. After 12 years apart, a dog and her owner are finally reunited. The San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office in California received a call from an animal services officer regarding a stray dog earlier this month who was dropped off in a rural area. The officer was able to find the chip in the dog and found out her name was Zoe, who was first reported missing in 2010. However, she was missing for such a long time, the microchip company listed her as deceased in their records. Zoe's owners had the same phone number and were quickly notified, which led to their reunion. A very long time coming. From our whole team, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your day.